Okay, so my name is Carrasco Gonzalez. I'm an associate professor at the UNAM in Morelia, Mexico. And I'm going to talk about the distribution of pebbles in compact disks. So ALMA has in the last years to produce these incredible images of a disk, highly detailed. And I think that still this is one of the most important results from ALMA, is that these guys, these large disk, 100 AUs radius, with rings and gaps are very common, and we have been discussing, are they a consequence of already formed plans? Do they have a role in the formation of new planets? And we have focused a lot on these systems. This is Edge KITP. All of you know these images. This is 1 millimeter, and it was the first time we saw all these substructure. We have been in the last year emphasizing that centimeter emission is important. We need to observe also centimeter emission, not only millimeter, because centimeter emission traces the places where large particles, the pebbles, are located. We have been doing observation on multi-wavelengths, so with several observations, a lot of wavelengths, a wide range of wavelengths we can model. The dust conditions, and this is dust temperature, this is the dust density, and this is the size. So here, for example, we see that there are that the rings, the bright rings are dense and are also probably growing the dust. No? So this is polarization observations. There is a lot of information from polarization, but here, what I want to emphasize is that there is a change in the polarization pattern between gaps, which are optically thin, and rings, which are optically thick. And the best way we have to explain this difference in the polarization pattern is that because there is a high contrast between the density, the optical depth, or the density between gaps and rings, and we think that rings are storing 10 times more mass than the gaps. No? So the rings are actually very good places to start the formation of new planetesimals. This is an interesting observation at band 9 of Edge KITP, and you cannot see here very easily substructures. And this is important. At band 9, you are already very highly optically thick. This is the intensity profile of the band 9, and this is the intensity profile of the 1 millimeter. Okay, so band 9 is at 0.5 millimeter. So you blur all the gaps and you don't see them, and this means that gaps are optically thicker at band 9. So this probably is suggesting that we have a lot of small particles within the gaps, no? And we have to go to band 9 to see this effect. So now there is a general consensus that all these substructures, deep and wide gaps, are difficult to explain without the already presence of massive protoplanets occurring in some of the gaps. No? We have only a few confirmed planets in gaps. This is difficult, but what I want to talk here is that we have focused too much on these large disks, no? But most of the disks are actually look like this. So they are compact, they are very compact. So these have like 100 astronomical units of radius, but most of the disks, everywhere you look, are actually compact with an average radius of 30 AUs, no? And we don't know a lot of this, a lot from this because they look not so interesting like this, but they also are more difficult to observe, no? So there was this, some years ago, there was this fantastic paper from Nienke van der Mare and Mulders. They analyzed a lot of observations, ALMA observations from this. They found that there are 70% of the disks in their sample are compact, and they have a radius of 30 AU. No? So they proposed two different evolutionary paths for extended and compact disks. So the first question is, if for some reason this is able to form a big planet at the beginning, so it will create pressure bumps, and these pressure bumps will trap dust. So you will have a disk with the substructures, and the dust cannot migrate to the center, so you remain big, large disk, and at some point, dust coagulation could happen in the rings, and then you form new planets, and you will end with something like this, no? A star with a very big planet that trigger the formation of smaller planets. What happens is you don't have a planet at the beginning, so nothing can stop radial drift, dust migration. So you end with a very compact disk in the dust emission. And who knows what happens later? Maybe we have dust coagulation from some mechanism, and you will end with smaller planets, or who knows, no? If it is possible to form planets when you have a lot of radial drift, no? So with this in mind, we started this project. This is the observations of this in Taurus. These are some of the disks that Fenelon observed in Taurus with ALMA and 1.3 millimeter. These are not very high angular resolution observations. These are 0.1 arcseconds only, but she was able to resolve the structure of a lot of these. These are some of the extended disks with substructures in her sample, and these are compact disks in her sample. So we started observations with the BLA, with mid resolution, similar resolution than the ALMA at 7 millimeter, 7 millimeter, 9 millimeter, 13 millimeter, and 2 centimeter. Only at 7 millimeter we have the same resolution than this observation, but these other wavelengths were necessary to subtract the free emission, because all these have a strong free emission. And the objective was to trace the global pebble distribution. At 7 millimeter, we can trace the position, the location of the larger particles, and we are optically thinner. We are observing optically thinner emission. So that was the idea. If you have something that does not stop dust migration, you expect to go to longer wavelength to have more concentrated the emission. So we measure sizes at different wavelengths. This is very easy with ALMA, but it's difficult with a 7 millimeter with the BLA, because you have very the emission, the dust emission is weaker, so you have to use azimuthal average and visibility feeds. So this is how we recover. This is the same disk. You see, this is the clean image, and this is the visibility modeling. So we are able to recover emission from these substructures, and we measure the sizes. So this is what we get for extended disk, and not surprising. This is the radial drift prediction, and you see that we have larger sizes at longer wavelengths than expected for the radial drift. So rings are stopping radial drift. This is for the compact disk. No surprise neither here. Radial drift dominated. They are totally consistent with what you expect the concentration of the long wavelength emission. We also studied the LCDs, and this is a plot of the wavelength versus the spectral index, and you have to see that here is what you expect for optically thick emission, and here is what you expect for optically thin. So after 3 millimeter, all the emission, the global emission seems to be dominated by optically thin, but below 3 millimeters, we have optically thick emission dominated. No? This is the same optical, the spectral index with the extension of the disk. And what you can see here is that it looks like compact disks are optically thicker than extended disks. And we think that this is because we have a lot of mass, more mass, relatively more mass. This is a plot, this is the mass at different wavelength. No, this is the flux, sorry, at different wavelength. In the optically thin emission regime, you can consider that flux and mass are related. So if we have half the flux in the compact disk relative to the extended disk, this means that compact disks have half the mass, in average, half the mass than the extended disk, no? But they are much more smaller. They are 9 times more smaller. So they should be intrinsically denser than the extended disk. So this is the reason why they look very highly optically thick. So that was a sample. That was something we tried with mid-resolution, but we also want to study in detail the particle distribution. But this is very difficult because compact disks are small, but they are also weaker. So it's difficult to do the same that we did with HL tau. But this is a good candidate to do that. This is digital. This is my new favorite. This it's not HL tau anymore. And we selected this one because it's bright. It's very bright. It's very bright because it's class 1. It's very young. It's very similar to HL tau. In principle, it's the same, a similar central star, and it's in the same region, same age. Both of them has a powerful jet, but this does not show. It's very compact and does not show substratus. So we wanted to see what is happening here. No, why they are so different. So you can consider these two guys as precursor of these two samples of this of class 2 this. No. So we observed with the BLA again 7 millimeter, 9 millimeter, 13 millimeter, and the first thing you see is that the emission is highly concentrated at the center, and indeed this is fully consistent with radial drift, a radial drift dominated this. So most of the large particles are very highly concentrated at the center, and we analyze. We have high angular resolution here. This is the radial profile of the 1.3 millimeter emission. This is through a visibility modeling using Frank. And if you look carefully, you can see that there are actually some substratus here, but no high contrast. We don't see gaps, clear gaps, but we see something, and you can see this on the visibilities. Actually, you see these oscillations. No? So there are something here. And the surprise was when we were doing the same visibility modeling of the long wavelengths, we see clearly rings and gaps. No, so this means that this is highly optically thick, as we were expecting from the study of the sample, and it's denser than HL tau. Look, this is what I show at band 9. You blur the gaps in HL tau. You don't need to go to band 9 here. You already blur everything at 1 millimeter, so it's much denser. And we were thinking, what is happening here? Because these rings cannot stop migration. So maybe it's snowlands, or maybe it's small planets already forming. No? And this is my last slide with the summary: long wavelength observation. Compact disks seems to be denser than extended disks, and they could have hidden substrata in compact disks. So maybe compact disks are more interesting actually than extended disks. Thank you.
Okay, so any questions or comments? This was Takahiro.
I'm Takahiro from CFA. Thank you for very nice talk. So I'm wondering, if I remember correctly, the compact disks are more associated with a small central star, let's say the M-type stars. And I'm wondering, in your sample, is there any difference in the stellar population in the large disks and the small disks?
No, not really. They are all the same, almost the same spectral type, I think. No, Feng is here. Maybe they are very similar.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So the ratio, sorry, Sierra Grant, Carnegie, the ratio of the gas disk size to the dust disk size can also tell you a lot about how efficient radial drift is. Do we have evidence from that ratio for these samples that this is really coming from radial drift?
I don't have. I have not worked with the gas observation here, but the friend told me yesterday that she thinks that smaller disks in dust are also smaller in gas.
Thanks.
Okay. Joseph Barber, Concord Observatory. So you say that in digital, you detect the same substructures as, for example, in HR tau, but they are hidden because they are all optically thick, right? Okay, that's awesome. But then I would expect that the same pressure structure would apply, that these bumps, surface density variation lead to dust trapping. And so what is your take on this?
So there is no dust trapping here.
You say there is no dust?
Yeah, we don't see dust trapping, actually. We see this, and we see that the large particles are highly concentrated, but we see bumps. Yeah, that's the question. This is what is causing these dust traps. Maybe they are not so strong. I mean, maybe in HL tau you have strong pressure bumps that are concentrating the dust. But here you have something that concentrates dust, but still the dust can pass through these pressure bumps. No? So these are like weak pressure bumps.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Maybe these are the result of small planets here. I don't know.
Please.
Paola Pinilla, UCL. So there was a paper, maybe 2019, by Diana Powell, who actually tried to connect the disk size that we would see different wavelengths to the gas disk mass, right? Because we are tracing different Stokes numbers, so we can calculate the gas disk mass. So have you tried that experiment in the ones that are drift dominated? Because I think it would be great to try to calculate gas disk masses in this sample.
Okay. So you mean that you are proposing that I try this?
Yes, if you have tried. Or you plan to try, or you like the idea, I don't know. Yeah, I think it is a good experiment to do.
Yeah. Thank you.
So you have the next speaker, right? Okay. So if no more, then let's start the speaker again.
Okay, thank you.